Welcome back to our coverage of round number 1 of the Africa Off-Road Championship in Hartbeesfontein, brought to you by N1 4x4 Cruiser and Toyota, your four-wheel drive experts in association with Pirelli. We've already done the kiddies race, we've done the bikes and the quads. It's time to get serious as we get the big bangers out. All of the side-by-sides, the buggies and the buckies going out for the first bit of racing action of the season. And massive entries once again was the theme of round number 1 of the championship. We went down in the pits and saw a couple of old faces and a couple of new faces and talked racing.
My name is Julio Ferreira, come from Botswana. I'm racing by OMSA from last year. I did well last year on my championship, and I'm looking forward this year to defend my title. And I'm looking forward as well for my kids that are also riding on the bikes on junior and kiddies. So I would really look forward if there's more people and friends that would like to join us. It's quite friendly to spend time here with some friends, meet some new people.
And that's what it's all about. Family racing, and it's all about the family behind the scenes as well. Berta, Flip's better half, as Flip stands in front of the mic. She's behind all the paperwork, and well done to them. From Pirelli, Mark and Barry Engel just getting the big high fives going and enjoying what it is to be part of the Africa Off-Road Championship Series racing family. As always, a little bit of a driver's briefing to tell the riders and drivers what they are in for, and if they haven't got their Pirelli tyres on, they can go get hooked up there with Mark and the boys. Everyone getting in the queue then, and it was going to be the start line scenario. A lot of new names was the theme of this event, and a couple of probably very experienced names were starting to come to the front. Werner Mostert and Henny Deploy, they've been really one of the crews in charge of promoting the side-by-side format of racing, and the G24 was going to be once again going out there and opening up the track as point 1. Vickers Haasbroek alongside Marco Solmonson would be doing the chase down. Slightly different format of vehicle, narrower track, more suited to a slightly more technical track, but I tell you what, in a straight line, this thing has got some ponies. The Class Ps would always be a category to watch out for at an event like this, the P5 of father and son Jacco and Jan van Aert. Third wheel to set off, and you would expect them to try and close things up on the side-by-sides early on. The Class P category we saw last year throughout the 2017 championship, Class Ps was going to be extremely hard fought. Tion Prinsloo and Dylan de Kock would also be doing the chase down on one of the older versions of the Class B championship as well. And the Class Bs boasted something like 15 entries. So the Class B was going to be an absolute war of attrition as the race started to wear on. For the time being, the 31 was going to be running out front. The B38 of Herman and Karen Combrink, very solid riders, a couple of podium places for them in the latter half of 2017, and they'd be hoping that whatever work they'd done on the machine in the off-season would be working out for them. Johnny Walker and Etienne Marks would go out in the B1, and this had to be a massive threat of a vehicle and pairing going out into the fields around Hartbeesfontein. The B1 showing they are former championship winners, so they've got a marker on their back. We caught up with these guys before the event, father and son pairing Julio and Ethan Ferreira in the P1. And again, the P category was going to be a tricky thing to watch out for. The Loadnet boys in good form, again at the last quarter of the 2017 season. A very tight and technical, pretty slow start to the lap at Hartbeesfontein, but it did open up round about the 20k marker. Andre Vermeulen and Rian van Rensburg in the F1, and the F category would show 2 entries. Andre Vermeulen and Rian van Rensburg getting chased down a little bit later on by Willy Feldman and Cornelius Niemann in the F2. We'll see how those guys can manage a little bit later on, but remember, they will have a little bit of inside knowledge on the track. Sparks Morrison, love to see one of the old school Sandmasters coming out, and this racing in the B category, but as you'll see, a little bit thin in the cockpit, meaning it is a single-seater, driving, navigating, everything all in one. At this point of the queue as well, they start to do the chase down together. Johan Besson would be doing the chase down, and then a little bit later on we'll be bringing on Wolf Peter Fomfai as Peter makes his trip across and joins us as part of the Africa Off-Road Championship. He'll be a big threat. Johan and Jason Mitchell will be doing the chase down in the P27 for the P category. And you'd think that they would be able to run a similar kind of pace as drivers like Grant Watkins and see if they can try and climb the ladder. Andre Vermeulen and Johan Fourie in the ice cream truck, they like to call it, a version of a Land Rover. And you'll see what I mean when I say a version of very highly modified Land Rover. Johan Lloyd and Arnold Theron will go out in the B22 in their Subaru colors. Unfortunately, not Subaru handling just yet. Aggressive start though, nonetheless. And you'll find that with some drivers, they do like to attack the first couple of kilometers to get themselves in the zone, get that heart rate up, and really just start getting excited about going out and racing. Mixing things up a little bit further down the pack then, one of the side-by-sides. It's going to be a fun day for Johan Pienaar and Eddie Lowe in the G19. They'll be catching up with a couple of the slower Class B and Class P competitors around about the halfway marker of the race and seeing if they can make some passes. But you'll notice with the side-by-sides, no screen for them and very, very close proximity. So you've got to be good buddies to go out and racing as you're going to be rubbing elbows the whole way through the day. Willy Feldman and Cornelius Niemann then rolling out the old school. This is one of the old Ford Bantams with a high-rise kit on it. And going to go see what they can do. They've done a lot of work on this car over the last couple of seasons and still running in the Action Ford colors. It'll be exciting to see if they can get themselves up and challenge for a top 5 position. This is going to be a crew we'll watch out for because they show extremely strong pace before they came to this race in testing. Nalda and Alisma Pedersen in the G97. They're going to be one of those crews that I'm famous for saying will plow the field, and that is make more overtakes than any other crew out there to try and challenge for a win. Out of Graven Motorsports, LC Diacha and Nico Killian. They've also done a lot of late season testing. A former national championship racing car, and cool to see it coming and dusting itself off for the 2018 season as part of round number 1 for the Africa Off-Road Championship. They'll get chased down from the guys from PE. That's right, PE. They make the trip up and join us every single time we go racing in the P9. And that's Grant Watkins and Paul Moret, one of the multiple entries in the Class P Championship. They should be the class of this field. They're going to have to do a big chase against the P27 of Johan Mitchell and Jason Mitchell. On timing and scoring, they normally run extremely close. This is the unknown factor in this format of racing, but known as an extremely strong racer in his own right, and probably the man with the most experience of single-seater off-road racing in the country. Welcome to Africa Off-Road Championship Racing, Wolf-Pieter van Fey. Brendan Martin has got some big shoes to follow, but I tell you what, if he can get onto the back wheel of Van Fey in the early running, you should be able to drag him through the field and really get him on point. Ockert Haasbroek and Johan van Rensburg go out in the E category. The E category is a category that we're going to be trying to grow. Some of the older buckies and lower powered spec vehicles, but at the same time, extremely cheap to spec and cheap to line up and go racing. So we hope to see more of the Class E's coming and lining up a little bit later on. Blurring the line between buggy and side-by-side is the B12 of Jaco Esterhuizen. He goes out there and he's going to see what he can do to try and climb the ladder and get himself on point. He goes in seat with Christopher Mitchell. Johan Bloom in the C category. Very few of the C categories still kicking around nowadays as well. And that's Johan Bloom. He's going to be out there by himself. You can see he's on the right-hand side, so he runs sans navigator. In other words, no navigator. It's going to be interesting to see what he can do. Jeremy and Christopher Mitchell in the B21, they are strong competitors, and I'm expecting to see them try and climb the ladder. A low start line position is going to hold them back on lap number 1. When they get to open up the taps on lap number 2 with a bit of clear air, they should be able to run numbers. Colleen Croshaw and Marianne van Skalkbeek, a new pairing, joining us as part of the Africa Off-Road Championship. And again, that has been the theme of round number 1. Lots of new pairings, new faces, and new vehicles lining up to start out a brand new season of racing. Jaco Rousseau on the B46, single-seater, goes out and tiptoes his way through the first section. Flip Veldman, our very own man with a plan, the guy who is behind this championship format of racing for Africa Off-Roads, likes to go out there once everyone is gone and done and dusted and see how many people he can make feel bad about themselves. See who he can chase down and pass in one sprint lap of racing. Go have fun, Flip. Have a jaw. Alec Abbott is going to be our final car going out of the paddock before we go out into the fields, and our camera crew catch up with the drivers around about the halfway marker of lap number 1. So Alec Abbott, good luck. We'll see you out there in the fields. So that's a nice start line cue done and dusted. Everyone out there into the fields, join us after the break as we pick up on all the racing action from the fields around Hartbeesfontein.